10 shocking revelations we now know about WCW's demise. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos, and follow us on Facebook for exclusive lists. Number 10. WCW and the Turner Network's bizarre relationship. The Who Killed WCW documentary series discussed a range of topics, and one of the key themes running through each episode was a chaotic relationship between WCW and the Turner Network. Traditionally, when a TV network broadcasts a show, it's vital that the two sides have a positive working relationship. Unfortunately, this was never the case with WCW and the Turner Network. Ted Turner was the one who always wanted WCW on his network. However, the rest of the network had no interest in having WCW on their platform. Of course, it was this negative relationship that led to WCW being dropped from its TV slot in 2001. The obvious question is, would WCW have had more success if they were working with a network that wanted pro wrestling on their platform? It's hard to say, but as we've seen over the years how vital a positive relationship between a wrestling company and their respective network can be, WWE have usually had a fantastic relationship with their networks, and this allows them to be given a significant leeway with their product and their presentation. Number 9. Rey Mysterio wanted what? Kevin Nash made numerous appearances in the aforementioned documentary, and one of the things Nash revealed related to the infamous spot where he would throw the legendary Rey Mysterio into the side of a production truck. According to Nash, Mysterio wanted Nash to throw him through a glass window. Quite rightly, Nash declined this request. This was a correct decision from Nash, as not only could Mysterio have been seriously hurt if this was the spot, but the spot WCW ultimately went for resulted in one of the most replayed and iconic moments in WCW history. Number 8. Hulk Hogan's original WCW deal. When Hulk Hogan joined WCW in '94, he made an instant difference to the success of the company. Hogan was a legitimate draw even in '94, and fans were incredibly excited to see Hogan in the new wrestling company. According to Eric Bischoff, Hogan's original deal included 4 pay-per-views a year, and he had full creative control. We know this eventually backfired on Hogan, as Hogan was prone to abusing his creative control, and no wrestler should ever be given creative control of this magnitude. Always led to issues. This was highlighted in the documentary when Eric Bischoff revealed that Hogan was the one responsible for the nonsensical Starrcade '97 match. This was the match in which Hogan pinned Sting with what was designed to be a fast count. However, the referee mysteriously failed to deliver the count any differently than he would in normal circumstances. Sting would then get the win after the match had been restarted. It was a complete and total mess, and arguably the worst payoff possible to a single hottest angle WCW had ever delivered. Number 7. It was Hulk Hogan's idea to turn heel. Hulk Hogan's heel turn in the mid-90s was the heel turn that propelled WCW into the stratosphere. The subsequent formation of the NWO managed to get more eyes than ever before on the WCW product, and it's hard to imagine WCW having so much success if Hogan didn't turn heel at the '96 Bash at the Beach pay-per-view. In the documentary, Bischoff recalls that it was actually Hogan's idea to turn heel and become the third man of the NWO faction. According to Bischoff, he had spent weeks trying to convince Sting to turn heel, and when he asked Hogan who he thought should be the third man, Hogan replied, "You're looking at him, brother." Hogan's heel turn was kept top secret, and he didn't arrive at the arena until the last minute. He would stay at Kevin Sullivan's house, and this was done just in case Hogan got cold feet regarding the situation. Number 6. Eric Bischoff didn't want Thunder. In 1998, the Turner Network decided they wanted TBS to host a secondary WCW show titled Thunder. This never made a ton of sense, especially when you consider that the Turner Network was embarrassed that they had pro wrestling on the network. So for them to suddenly request more wrestling content questions this established narrative. According to Bischoff, who admittedly never wanted a secondary show, the show had been funded out of the initial WCW budget, which should have instantly raised alarm bells. This meant that no additional funds were provided for Thunder, so it's a firm belief that the show was set for failure from day one. Bischoff would claim that he needed each show to have unique talent, just like the WWE brand split that would come 4 years later. This idea could have worked, but WCW never committed to the idea, and WCW Thunder quickly became Nitro 2.0. Number 5. The logic of the David Arquette win. Speaking of WCW Thunder, without a doubt the most infamous moment of the show saw actor David Arquette pin Eric Bischoff in a tag match to become WCW World Champion. This decision received major backlash, but Russo believed that it would take WCW to the next level and give them significant exposure. Whilst it did temporarily give them mainstream exposure, this never translated to new long-term viewers, and anyone who switched over to WCW for the first time would have no doubt been horrified at the poor quality of the product. In the documentary, Arquette tells the story of him asking Booker how many times he had been world champion, and when Booker replied 0, Arquette's triumphant tone quickly changed. Number 4, better than 80% of the roster? When Vince Russo became the head writer at WCW, there was some hope that Russo could have saved the company. Russo was somewhat responsible for the popularity in WWE in the 90s, but of course Russo always had Vince McMahon as a filter, and McMahon had the power and ability to filter out any of Russo's idea that wouldn't work in the company's favor. Russo without this filter was a total disaster, as every creative idea was completely insane and WCW turned into a laughingstock both from the perspective of the fans as well as talent within the company itself. A few months into Russo's run as head writer for the company, he made the ridiculous call for himself to be an on-air character. Russo was all over the show and he would become a primary character. Whilst Russo's promo work wasn't bad, he had zero to offer as an on-air name, and the time and effort should have gone into wrestlers that could potentially get WCW out of the insidious rut. Russo went way too far during this run, as for some baffling reason he would book himself to win the WCW World title. That's right, the most prestigious prize in the company, and he booked himself to win it. Many WCW fans labeled this as an official end to the WCW they had loved, and it was no doubt a sign that WCW was beyond saving. Whilst the top names in WCW had less than positive perception of Russo's time as a talent, the same can't be said for Russo himself, as in the documentary, he would legitimately claim that he was better than 80% of the WCW roster. This highlights just how out of touch Russo was both as a writer as well as a talent. Number 3, did Goldberg intentionally hurt Russo? Vince Russo wasn't a seasoned pro wrestler, so when he would take bumps, he would often get hurt. Russo claimed that wrestlers were hurting him on purpose, and he cites Goldberg spearing him through the cage as evidence of this. According to Russo in the documentary, he had a concussion at the time that the cage spot was set to go down, and he informed Goldberg to spear him into the entranceway. However, when Goldberg connected with the spear, Russo went crashing into the railing. Whilst Goldberg was never considered the safest wrestler in the world, just ask Bret Hart, there was no way he was purposely hurting Russo. This was clearly a case of Russo having no idea how to take the spear, and naturally, the fact that this man had a genuine concussion would have been a major contributing factor. Number 2, Kevin Nash almost beat Goldberg clean. Starrcade 98 was one of the most significant nights in WCW history, as Kevin Nash ended Goldberg's historic win streak. Some fans believe that Nash shouldn't have been the one to end the streak, and it's common consensus that the honor should have gone to a young star. According to Eric Bischoff, Nash was one of the few guys that looked like he could beat the monster that was Goldberg, and Bischoff needed a creative finish to tell the story. In a completely unexpected moment of the documentary series, a former WCW booker Kevin Sullivan says the finish he wanted for Nash was to win clean in the same way Goldberg was beating everyone. The thought of Nash beating Goldberg clean is hard to think about, and it's up for debate as to whether this would have worked better than Scott Hall tasing Goldberg. And number 1, forensic investigation. Eric Bischoff is blamed throughout the documentary series for throwing out big contracts with guaranteed money. Bischoff had even referred to as ATM Eric by fans and critics over the years, and it's revealed that in the documentary that Bischoff was informed by Harvey Schiller that he had been under a forensic investigation for misuse of funds. The idea was thrown out there that Bischoff was giving out all this money so he could get a kickback. Luckily for Bischoff, the investigation revealed that this wasn't the case, but according to Bischoff, the fact that someone within WCW or the Turner Network believed that this claim had some credence made Bischoff want to quit the company. But there you have it folks, 10 shocking revelations we now know about WCW's demise. Be sure to leave your comments down below, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.